Hey everyone, welcome back to this new video. I have a very interesting video for today because this library which I just found out about solves pretty much all the issues with the new form, the use form state hook which I had and using form actions while keeping the developer experience which I had before. So let's start off. So, in a nutshell, what I'm talking about is the fact that just ignore the CSS styling. I did that in like a few minutes, but the problem I was facing with the form actions was that when I couldn't have a good enough developer experience with form validation input field level using something like Zod. For people who know about React hook forms, it used to provide it still provides a brilliant developer experience for using forms and you know input level validation. You can combine this with something like Zod. They have this with Yup, but you can combine this with something like Zod and uh, easily have like error validation for each inputs. Now the problem with the form actions was that um, since we were sending it to the server, combining that with React hook form was kind of a weird, weird task to do. And also the fact that having it on both client side and server side was a little bit tough. And now what happened was that I found this tweet um, by Alex Sidorenko. For people who don't know, he has amazing short form videos on Next.js. You can go and follow him on Twitter. He makes this amazing like screen recordings, which has like short like a few seconds of videos which explains so much about new features coming up. Highly recommend following him if you're an active Next.js user. He had this tweet on Conform, which talks about how you can have client plus server side validation from one Zod schema. To be fair, I used to do this with but well, one Zod schema thing was still there. I used to have it on client and server while using React hook forms too. That's not that new, but it works with Next.js server actions plus use form state, and it's very easy to integrate. And he actually found about this from Ken C. Dots. Ken C. Dots, for people who don't know, is a part of the remix community. I think one of the people who actively works on it, and he also has amazing videos on performance, web optimizations, and all those things. So, highly recommend following these two. But to get back into the point of the video, so I just want to talk about conform.guide. Let me just zoom in. Um, It's an amazing validation library. I have no idea how I didn't find out about this before, but it has progressive enhancement, type safe field inference, subscriptions, accessory helpers, and type coercion with Zod. To be fair, a lot of these things are in React hook form, but the DX is much easier to use with form actions now. They actually have the package for both Remix and Next.js. So if you go to the tutorial, they talk about how to install this, and this is mainly for Remix. So we can go to Next.js and look at this. Actually, I'll go to my own code base and talk about how I did this. So for people who are not very comfortable with form actions yet, I'll go over how this is done, right? So if I look at a normal form with form actions, I have this home page. Let me go to my home page over here. And I have this normal CSS, Tailwind CSS. I have this normal, which just shows normal over here. Actually, I don't think it's visible on my screen. Okay, I resized my screen, and for some reason, the problem with my new laptop, the resolution doesn't match with what I want on the screen. And if you can look into this normal over here, right? This is just to indicate that it's a normal form, just to make sure for me because I was confusing myself with which one it is. Actually, let me move my camera over here. Okay, amazing. So this is a form I have, and this is made using form action. So if I'll just look at the form over here, this is the form component. This is using use form state, which basically maps form. You can have like server actions to run inside the use form state, which is authenticate is basically a server action, and it returns last result. You can return whatever you want here, and form action is basically the action which needs to be run. So if you look at the authenticate function over here, actually we'll look at this later because it needs a bit more context. You can pass in the action over here, and you form button is basically a component which uses use form status, which is another hook which comes with React 19, and basically Next.js already had it beforehand because of the Canary version of React 18. So you get this pending attribute from the use form status hook, and you can use that pending attribute in an actual application. I'll use something like CN and do this. I made this up in like a few seconds just for the demonstration of this video. So something to note. And I have an on click over here, handle click, which just checks for pending. If that it's still pending, I prevent the default, else just do whatever you want. And then disabled is just working with pending and then children. Um, so this is what this form looks like. This is a normal what a form would look like in Next.js 14. And what you would do is normally what I was looking at was that in this authenticate function, right? Let's assume this isn't there. Sorry, let's assume this isn't there. And normally what I would do is in this validation, I would probably return something like an data or error, something like this. The problem with this, right? Okay, keep doing that. The problem with this was that I had to do something like this, and then checking for every time last result changes, if last result dot error, and then show error or something. That wasn't very intuitive to me. I guess you could just do last result dot errors dot map, something like that, right? But it's not very developer friendly in a way. So I in a previous application, for people who don't know, my previous video I talked about a poker application. So if I just look at that code base, oh, I didn't clone it here. But if you just look at that code base, let me just open this over here. So if I look at this, right? So if I look at SRC components, create room form, for example, here what I do is I use form state, and then I use const form use form. Use form is comes from React hook form, and then I was combining that with Shatsian's UI library with form field, and then sending. This seemed very weird to me. And then form dot handle submit, and then sending form action within that, sending form data like this. Um, it works, but I didn't have the developer DX friendliness which I used to have with just using React hook forms and you know without form actions basically. Um, so I wanted to combine the two, have a better developer experience. I didn't know about Conform, and today I found out about it, and this is how it looks with Conform. Conform. I don't know the pronunciation, so sorry guys whoever made this. But yeah. So if I look at Conform form, let me just give a demo before anything. It works immediately. It works immediately. I can type the whole thing. I guess I didn't have to show my email over there, but that's fine. So now that that's valid, it says okay, and I didn't have any of this validation by myself. This is being done by Zod. For people who don't know about Zod, I have videos on it. Just go to my channel and search for Zod. There are a couple of videos on Zod over there. But in a nutshell, that is the four. That those are the four lines of code which it took me to have all this validation. That's how cool Zod is for me. And this is a very basic implementation of Zod. Zod is much more powerful. I have like a tweet on what I found out like I could do with Zod, and it blew my mind. I ever since I started using Zod for my validation, I've never gone back. There's another cool library called Valibot. It's very similar to Zod, but it's much smaller in size, so you can look at that too. I have videos on that too. But um, going up back to the video. So what this is doing is this basically is defining an object, and it's saying email is a string and it's supposed to be an email type. And password is a string and it should have a minimum of 6. I can actually also change the message which this passes. So I could say password must be at least 6 characters long. And if I refresh and do 1 2, this changes this. I can, for example, say this as well: invalid email address. I'm not sure what it does right now. Yeah, invalid email. Say should be of the form username at email provider dot tld. I mean, you probably wouldn't have something like this in an actual application, but I didn't even refresh. It worked. Next.js hot reload works very well. So that's how many lines of code it took me to do that. And also, this also now basically, so if I look at this conform form, I don't need this anymore. I was just trying something. This is basically working because of should validate over here, or because of the on blur event which is being triggered. Okay, no. And then how this works is I have the normal use form state. Then I'm calling the use form hook, which comes from conform to React. So I actually first installed at wait, how did I install this? Yeah, I added a conform to dash slash React and conform to slash Zod. And then I also added Zod like that. And then what I did was I basically imported use form, get form props, and get input props. For people who have used React hook forms, this would seem very similar. And then what we're doing is defining this use form. This takes an attribute called last result, which is what we're taking from this use form state. We're sending that to back to last result. Then we're doing an on validate, which is basically what the validation logic we want on the client. This is returning pass with Zod, and we're sending in the form data and sending what schema this is. So the schema is what we defined earlier, and then should validate is when it should validate. You can also set a should revalidate. On input, something like that. I think that's by default, you don't need to set it. Now, next is normally just like in normal Next.js 14 forms, you set the action to form action, and then you have this. So this what for people who are not very kind of new to JavaScript, this is basically destructuring the this basically returns an object. Get form props, sending the form in, returns an object. And what this destructuring does is it takes all those objects and then assigns it separately in as attributes, as props to the form HTML element. Then we have a normal label, we have an input, and over here we have get input props. We're sending in fields. We're taking fields from the use form and then sending it fields.email over here. And also this takes an email directly from the Zod schema. You don't need to do anything over here to set it. If you have something like React hook form, sometimes you have to do something like export type, this. You don't need to do any of this over here now. It takes in Zod schema by itself, sets a type, and I can just do fields dot and I have autocomplete over here. There, it's very type safe. And then you set the type to be email. And then you set this key. I'm not sure if this is necessary, but it was there in the documentation, so I put it in. Now this is where the errors come from. I have this div, and just a normal small, and then sending fields.email.errors. This is all managed by Conform under the hood. You don't need to do anything by yourself. This is basically an array of strings. And then same with password. And then we have the normal form button, which we showed before with use form status. So that's kind of it. That's how many lines of code it took to do this. And also to prove a point that it also works on the server side, let me just open the console and disable JavaScript. Let's refresh once. Actually, I don't know if I'm supposed to refresh. Okay, so JavaScript is disabled. Now I can go works. Now this, as you could have seen, it wasn't working on every input because client-side JavaScript was disabled. But since we had the same validation on the server and we didn't have to change anything, mind that, we didn't have to change anything on the server to, have any kind of like manual validation or anything. It worked with the same Zord schema and you could just see that it works. That's how cool this is. And also, just to note that this action, this pass with Zord is actually returning the submission object over here. This submission has this reply, the status, and this payload. So you can take a look at what this is. It basically status is just saying if what's the type of status? Let's see that it's either error or success or undefined. Now, if this is not success, then obviously we want to submission dot reply. What this is doing is this is basically a function. This is returning back from the function with the errors. So you could actually take a look at this. I didn't take a look at this before, but let's take a look now. Uh, I can actually look at last result over here. And let's go over here, right? Let's keep JavaScript disabled and let's click on submit over here. Now see last result over here, it returns status, initial value, and then error. And then it has email and password over here. It has all the initial value as well. Now what this is doing is this fields is basically returning, it's mapping those errors into what we want. So you can actually do error, error over here and look at what this is. Exactly what we need over here. So this is basically mapping all of them into the right fields and then sending it back. And it's doing so much under the hood work. Not so much, but this is kind of the bare minimum I actually want in a form library. The React hook form used to do an amazing job, and I think this has done an amazing job in combining this with the server actions. And I feel like this is something I would use very, very much in my day-to-day applications when I'm working with Next.js 14 and form actions. I think this makes a huge impact. And also, you could actually combine this with ChatCN's form library. I just the that if you look at ChatCN UI, look at form. Problem with form in that like not a problem, but he talks about usage and he talks about how to use this with Zord resolver over here, and he uses it with React hook form. You ideally what you want to do over here is you can use the same form over here and you can pass instead of passing in form like this. Where's he getting form from? Yeah, the form is basically coming from uh, use form hook and sending that over here. You I, ideally want to change that. Actually, you don't even need this part probably. You can use this form part and then set whatever you're doing over here. And then you can use, instead of using form field, you can just use these inputs over here separately. Basically, that's what is doing to render this inside over here. Uh, But yeah, that's kind of in a nutshell on how to use Conform, and I just tried it out like half an hour ago, and it seems like a very, very convenient library and probably something I'll use again, like I said, very, very much in the future. So that's it for this video. Stay tuned for more such content. I'll be starting to post a little more regularly now, but I have my exams coming up soon, so I'll probably take a step back at that point. But for more such content, please like, share, and subscribe, and keep watching.